It's Cheer.
And this is Loathing.
We're here to talk to you about movies.
She loves everything. I hate everything.
This should be fun.
This is a Morbidly Beautiful podcast.
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Cheer and Loathing, featuring myself, Casey, as Loathing. And over there we have, there it starts already, Stephanie as Cheer. I was hoping to just get through that intro without choking on my own shit, but
Oh, God.
here we go.
So, hi, I'm Stephanie. And listen, we were bantering a bit before the show started about how sort of like miserable we are today in so many different ways. Our world is falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also both sick. So this is going to be a doozy of an episode, but maybe it'll make it better. I don't know.
Maybe.
Better or worse. One of those two.
Well, I did
We'll
see
see.
that you booked a vacation, so you have at least something to look forward to.
Oh my God, I did. I have been losing my ever-loving mind. So I did a last minute, I don't give a shit if the timing's not right. I'm going vacation and I'm freaking out. I can't wait. I'm a little stressed because I've got to get a lot done before I can go, but it's
Right.
going to be great.
Well, where is it? You said like oceanfront, but you're in Texas, and I don't think there's an ocean near Texas.
There is an ocean in Texas, which is
Is there?
it's it's not a world famous ocean that
the fuck
all
ocean
the
is it?
tourists. Well, I mean, it's the Gulf Coast.
So it's a gulf. Is that an ocean? I don't know. I don't know enough about
It's an ocean, yeah.
waterology.
It's not a great ocean, if I'm being honest. Like compared to the other oceans, well, just even in America, it's. I mean, listen, I'm in Texas. Like, it's not a dream destination, but it's an ocean, and that's really all I care about because I'm an ocean girl. Like, that's my happy spot, and it's nice. And I've got this really cute. Nobody gives a shit, but I've got this really cute little condo that's like literally on the beach. Like, it is 2 steps from the ocean. You like walk out your door and there is the beach right there. So I'm pretty freaking happy about it.
You should just move to California.
Yeah, I should just pack up and move. It's fine.
I mean, it's what, like a 30-minute drive from you, isn't it?
California?
Yeah, I don't know. American
Nothing.
geography's
First of
weird.
all, I'm in Texas. Like, if you drive for 6 hours, you're still just like in the next county over. Like, it takes 100 hours to leave the state.
It's
not
not
great.
100 hours to leave the state.
Look, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it is a
Because-
big state. It takes forever to get out of here.
Yeah, and Texas is still like half the size of Ontario, so I know what you mean.
Look, I'm not saying it's bigger than the planet. I'm just saying
but I mean,
I
yes,
can't get
it's-
anywhere very quickly is what I'm
Yes.
trying to tell you.
I understand. It also takes hours to get out of Ontario. I understand.
In spite of that, like California, the cost of living is probably, I don't know, 200
On
times
par
more
with
than it is here.
Toronto.
So I can't really just like move, sadly, and just get a nice place on the ocean side, you know? It's not really how it works, but I would love
Well,
to. That'd be great.
Sell
would
Morbidly
love-
Beautiful. Take your
Yeah,
millions and run.
for the millions, yes. Yeah, great idea. I don't know why I didn't think of that one. Just sitting on this like loaded nest egg, you know, just waiting to
never
cash
know.
in.
You never know.
Well, maybe after this episode, when this podcast goes viral, that will just raise the value a little bit more, and so
maybe.
then I can sell and move
Maybe.
to California and get my little place on the ocean.
Yeah. there you go.
Perfect.
You're all set.
Great. Well, maybe since you're in a hurry today because you're a busy boy, maybe we should transition to actually talking about what we're
Yeah,
here to talk
I
about.
was just thinking that maybe it might be a good idea.
Since you're all stressed and wound tight.
A little bit.
Since you're stressed and wound tight, great time for us to talk about your pick this week, your theme pick this week, which is cursed objects.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, based on the films that each of us chose for this week, it may actually be this podcast that's cursed and not these films. Because this was a doozy of a week. You picked Polaroid.
I did.
And because it's your theme, I think that we should lead with your pick.
Okay.
Also because this is a pretty spectacular pick that you chose for us. And I can't wait to get into it. So I think you should set us up and tell us a little bit about this movie and go ahead and include your favorite thing, which is the amazing Rotten Tomatoes score for this film.
Yeah, I was just about to mention, I've never seen this before. So it naturally has 5 reviews from critics with a 0% rating, which is not
0%.
surprising. But the audience score has 2,500 ratings, but it's grayed out and has 2 dashes. So I don't know what that means.
I don't either. I saw that too, and I don't know. Does that mean that it's just,
Like it's so bad it
did
never
people give it
registered a
negative
score?
reviews?
Yeah, I don't.
They're like, I'm sorry, it's not even 0. It's not even close enough to be 0, which wouldn't actually surprise me. But I don't know. We should have probably done our homework and figured out why that is the case.
It's
We
busted.
did not, as usual.
Yeah, well, I
don't know.
mean, you don't expect these curveballs to be thrown at you, so I don't know. It's weird, but
It
there's
is
also
weird,
no
but
critic consensus or anything. It's a very blank page
yeah,
for
yeah.
for this movie. But basically, it's
Which is
about a girl. Oh, sorry, continue.
No. You go. Tell us what it's about.
Well, it's about a girl who
It's
finds
about
a
a girl.
camera that when the picture's taken, it's kind of like The Ring. You only have a certain amount of time left before this weird thing kills you.
Yes.
If that sounds
Great
familiar,
summary.
it's because it's the plot of about 456,212 other movies made in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, it is very I feel like I've seen this before kind of movie.
Yeah.
It is also based on a short story by the director of this film. So it was an adaptation of a short film. Which makes a lot of sense when you watch it because it is one of those films that you're like, okay, that's a cool concept and it's interesting for like a minute.
Mhm.
But then once you sort of like know the conceit and you get it, then everything after that just feels like, and again, and again, and again. And you're just like, okay. Yeah, so it does feel like it's something that you had to stretch out and pad a lot. And you can feel that padding. Faux show.
Yeah. It definitely would have worked better as like an anthology style story. You know, like in Holidays or something like that. Just like a 15-minute thing.
Yeah.
I appreciate that they tried to do sort of twist at the end, but it, like everything else, it just kind of fell flat. And you know what? I think the best way to describe both the movies we watched today is if you open up a dictionary and look at the word mediocrity, these two will sit right flush there. And this is definitely... There's nothing terrible about the movie. There's nothing unwatchable about it. But put it this way, this is the second time I've watched it in a month because it's the one that gave me the idea for the Cursed Object movies. And on the second watch, I'm like, I don't remember any of this because it was that forgettable.
Yeah, today is a very special day on the podcast because
This might be like a 15-minute episode.
which you would love. You're like, can we just get in and get out? I got shit to do. The reason this is a special episode is because, you know, I'm cheer. I love everything. Like almost everything. I even love shitty stuff. Like I find some stuff that's really like we've had conversations on the podcast, stuff that's really like objectively bad. If it's the right kind of bad, I can find it very endearing and charming. I love a so bad it's good kind of movie. Yeah, rarely do I have visceral negative reactions to films. But today is the day. Today is the day I was like, and you know what? When you picked Polaroid, I've
Had you seen it
purposely,
before?
I hadn't, no, but I've purposely avoided it. It's one of those that it did not look interesting. And then I heard it was terrible and just a waste of time. And I was like, oh, I'm going to avoid that one. There's no need for me to watch it. And then you were like, we should watch Polaroid. And I didn't want to be like, no, I mean, it was your pick. I didn't want to like
Like you did the
You know,
last
be
one.
negative
Like, no,
about
we
it.
can't watch what keeps you alive. I've
No.
talked about it too much. No, you can only watch the movies I suggest.
All right, god damn it. So anyway, I didn't want to deal with your shit like I just got there. So I was like, okay, I'll watch Polaroid. But I sort of went into it knowing that it was gonna be a rough one. And it's just you're like, it's fine. Like what the kids today would say is mid. But I wouldn't even say
that
it's
what kids
mid.
say?
I would say that's what the kids say. Casey, you wouldn't know. You're just an
I
old man
know,
who's out of
I'm
touch
fucking
reality.
too
But
old,
I'm
man.
hip to the cool kids.
Yeah,
Um,
because you got
But
that new
listen.
hip replaced. And
wow, you're on fire today.
mm-hmm.
I just think it is just bad. It's so it's really like a chore to get through. Like this was a film that I kind of paused a few times. I don't usually do this either, where I would watch a little bit of it, then I would go do something else, and then I would be like, oh, I guess I need to go back and watch Polaroid. I mean, I don't even know how long it took me to watch it forever because I just couldn't. And I couldn't stay focused, and that's probably why you're like, I don't remember what happened, because I probably don't either, because I sort of zoned in and out, and I was not invested in any characters. I was at no point was I like, well, this is interesting. I didn't give a shit about the origin. This film does the thing that sort of drives me a little bit crazy, where every time there's, some mystery, some like the Ring type of thing, where it's like the character always has to figure out why it's happening, and they have to figure out why it's happening in order to stop it. That's very cliche. We get that all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's the least fun part of any film that does this. And because it tends to be a lot of exposition. It tends to be a lot of like, let's go to the library and research. Let's talk to people. Let's investigate. And
Right.
sometimes that can be interesting if it's a compelling mystery and you really do want to know like what the hell's happening. And it's somehow done in a smart way, but this wasn't. And it was like, and the thing is that I think on paper, the story's kind of interesting, right? Like there is some like depth. They try to do some depth to it. They try to make it a little bit more than just kind of a surface shallow thing, but I don't know, I just didn't care. And it was so boring, and it was so stiff, and it was so just like, and it's funny because like when it starts, basically everyone who's going to die is sort of in the first picture that gets taken. And then it's just like they have to try to like escape it and figure out like what's happening and how to stop it. And so there's just zero suspense. I don't know. I really was fairly angry at this film when it was over. And that, like I said, almost never happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even have any notes. I didn't even write down like, this is fun.
No. Didn't
Or
write
like,
down a
let's
single
talk about
fucking thing
this.
for it either. Yeah.
I did, and I don't want to jump the gun. I did write down shit about Wish Upon, which
Me too.
we're going to get into. But this film is like, it's just such a waste of time. It's not. It deserves that 0%. Usually I'm like, okay, guys, like that's a little much, and especially with a critic review horror, especially your sort of PG-13, quote unquote generic horror that doesn't do anything different. That's not like art house. It's not smart in any way, really. Critics don't usually love that stuff. So I'm like, that's fine. Maybe it'll be fun. It might not be great. It might have shit tons of plot holes. It might be really derivative, all that stuff. I can forgive all that. I really can. For the right kind of film. If I know what kind of film it is, I'm like, all right, it's not trying to be anything special. Like, let's just have fun with it. But I did not have fun with this. It's not fun. It's not fun at all.
No, it like you said, it's a chore. It has a 90-minute runtime, and that 90 minutes feels like 90 hours, and it's so cookie cutter. It's not even like Christmas tree cookie cutter. It's like just the circle cookie cutter. There's not even like a unique design to the cookie cutter. It's a mass produced, like you're gonna make a chocolate chip round cookie, and you're gonna forget the chocolate chips. It's just plain boring, bland. There's nothing I wouldn't say there's nothing redeeming about it. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with how the movie is. It's just bad. Like it had a little bit of production budget behind it, you can tell, but it does the paint by numbers. It has basically the Scream opening where you introduce two characters and one of them dies, and then you never hear from the other one ever again. And it's just like, do something different. Now, maybe that was, I don't know what studio did this. I don't know if it had a studio behind it really, but it feels like either, I find it hard that a creative person would purposely make a movie like this without some sort of executive interference. You know what I mean?
Well,
like it feels like you need to be Scream. Like it needs to hit these points.
Yeah, it does feel like, yeah, you're right. A studio sat down and said, like, this is the formula, do this. It did get stuck in, like, production hell. It was attached to, like, the Weinstein Company. And so there was, like, drama around that, which it got delayed for quite a long time.
Right. It's just sad that this is the worst thing the Weinsteins have ever done.
Okay. I can't co-sign on that one. But it's, you know, to your point, you start off saying, like, it's really not bad. It's like fine. And I was like, no, it's bad. But like, actually you are right. The problem is that it would be, you know, I read a quote. I was from another reviewer that I can't take credit for, but I was like, this is spot on. And they said, it would be camp if it were any fun. And that's the thing. It's like, there's not even that like, okay, so bad it's fun kind of thing where it's like, oh, this is a train wreck, but then that makes it kind of hilarious and great to watch.
Like
it's not a train wreck. It's not, you know, it's not horrific, but it is so freaking bland. And it's like, there's all these characters. You can't differentiate one from the other. Like none of them stand out in any meaningful way. They're all just like sort of this like nameless, faceless, like they're just bodies to be killed off.
They're fodder,
and they're not even killed off in interesting ways. They're not.
No, they'll die the same way essentially.
You know, the opening scene's good. I'll give it that. Like they have a good like sort of you know, cold opening where we're first introduced to the camera. And
but do we need that? We know what the movie's
I
about.
liked that. I liked that. I thought that had
That's one of those tropes I really don't like. The second movie we talked about today, Wish Upon, does this fucking same thing.
I thought it was stylish. I thought it was it had some nice tension. Like I was like, okay, at least I'm not. I wasn't checked out in the first few minutes. I was like, all right, you know, okay, I'm with you. But then it's like, that's all you need. That part, that opening is like the short film. Like that self-contained is interesting and good. And you're like, because honestly, the concept, this is the problem with this movie. The concept's interesting, right? It has, if you wrote this down on paper and you're like, I want to make a movie about this, you're like, that has potential to be cool. I mean, obviously, you mentioned The Ring. The Ring is amazing, you know, badass. You can take a concept like this.
A pioneer. Sort of in that genre.
Well, I mean Ringo, but yeah.
Yeah, the franchise starting back in Japan, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's and it's not that. Listen, it's not the fact that like we've seen this conceit before. It's I mean I know this bothers you because you're somebody who's like, it's been done before. And I always argue, I'm like, everything's been done before, really. I mean, if you break everything down to its fundamentals, everything's been done in some way. Now, the trick is to take something that's been done before and make it unique. Make it something that brings something fresh to the table. That's what this film doesn't do. It just gives you exactly what you've seen before on a lesser par. It doesn't give you anything to hang your hat on. Like I said, if the kills were really cool, you'd be like, all right, the story sucks, but the kills are fun. And listen, I'm a horror fan. I come for the kills. Or if you're like, you know, the acting's terrible, but like there's at least like really fun dialogue, or there's a really fun character that's like the comic relief or something, or there's, you know, there's got to be something that rises above. And this is just like, there's no, you know, if it's a landscape, it's a Texas landscape. It is flat and boring, and there's no oceans and mountains and, trees and stuff. It's all just flatlands.
Yeah.
For miles and miles, and you're driving for 12 hours and you haven't left the city yet. Like, that's this film, and it's really, really unfortunate because I don't think it has to be. Like, it has potential. It could have been cool.
Mhm.
I don't know that it would take in that much to make it a little bit more cool, but this movie just feels like they phoned it in. And that's sad. Like, I hate saying that about, filmmakers, because I really appreciate the art of film and how hard it is to make a film. And it doesn't, like, technically it's fine. It doesn't look like shit or anything. It doesn't look like it was made with $5,
Mhm.
Like, it looks like they had potential to make it a great film, but
Yeah, there's not a whole lot redeemable to this. Like you said, it had more than a $5 budget, but what they did with it, they spent it on that Riverdale star in the first 5 minutes of the movie. The redhead who dies. Yeah.
Yeah.
They pulled a. Have you ever?
Yeah.
I think we may
the
have
best
even
part
talked,
of the movie.
Yeah. I think we may have talked about this before. A movie called Camp Hell. Have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of it. I have not seen it.
Okay, so I was working at a video store when that came out, when they still did like DVDs and shit at rental places.
I remember the story. I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, and it has
but
Jesse
please keep going.
Eisenberg
Yeah.
plastered all over the cover, starring Jesse Eisenberg. He's in it for about 8 seconds at the beginning of the movie. And that is it.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's kind
what,
of
that's
like
what,
the switch and pull thing here.
and I told you, like, for my day job, I'm in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, whenever I see shit like that, I'm like, that's fucking marketing. And I'm like, God damn it, I'm the devil, like, that's the shit that I do. I'm like, you know what? We've got this big name star. We should, like, market that, even though they're in it for 2 seconds and it's total bait and switch and totally dishonest. But
Yeah. But I mean, that's marketing 101, isn't
Yeah.
it? Get somebody in
Right,
the door.
yeah.
You don't
So
care
I'm
how
saying,
long they
like,
spend there.
I'm a terrible, terrible person.
You are. It's true.
I know. But I told you that I wanted to maybe revisit a thing that we used to do a while back, which is a 5-star review, which
Yep.
is where we just sort of
5-star review, eh? You're
No,
already
not
on the
5-star.
5-star review train for the end of the.
Yeah, let's get
Speaking
this-
of which, leave a 5-star review on Amazon, iTunes, and blah 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 blah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just because this movie's so good that I have 5
Yeah.
stars on my brain.
Yeah.
5-word review
There
where
we
we
go.
sum up our thoughts before we move on to the next film. I know that we hit this one pretty fast. We don't have much to say about it, which tells you all you need to know, probably.
Mhm.
But did you prepare a 5-word review?
I did just now because I completely forgot.
It's not surprising. I told you like
Tell me
an hour
yesterday.
ago, but
Yeah, that's okay. I called into work.
All
You
right.
know how it is, but yes. So
no, I know how it is with you, Casey.
If you want to do the honors, you can go first because mine's just gonna blow
Okay.
everything out of the water. So I don't want you to have to follow it up.
No, oh my God, you're always thinking of me. You're
I
always
know.
putting my needs first, and it's so endearing.
I know.
Mine is not clever at all or not interesting, but it's really just straightforward. My 5-word review is clever concept but terrible execution.
You're right. You really should have gone first. That's yeah. Mine.
All right, what's yours, Smarty
Mine
Pants?
is mediocre has a name. Polaroid.
Yeah, no, that is spectacular.
And I can use that for the second movie too.
Well, all right. Speaking of the second film is my pick. This is another film in a full transparency. So when you gave me this theme, I was, I'm supposed to pick a film I haven't seen before. So I was looking at all the possible options and I was like, damn it, I have seen all these films. And this, as usually happens, if there's something that I haven't seen, it's probably because I have actively tried not to see it. And I Wish Upon is in that category where I actively was like, no, thank you. It just looked like just generic PG-13 schlock that I just didn't give a shit about.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, you know what? I mean, I got to pick something. I haven't seen it. Maybe it'll, be something. So let's do it. So I picked Wish Upon. And I will say, I'm going to just do some spoilery stuff up front. So both of these movies are objectively terrible films. Like we really dumpster dived for that's a great little reference to the next film because her dad's a dumpster diver, but we dumpster dived for these films. They're not good. They're really there's a reason that they have shitty Rotten Tomatoes reviews and that they are pretty much like forgotten films.
This one at least has a Rotten Tomatoes score.
Well, I was going to say my but here. There is a but, and here it's coming. When I talked about Polaroid, I said that a reviewer said, it might be, if it was at least camp, it might be a little fun, but there's not even a so bad it's good kind of vibe going on whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So it's just like boring and dull. I think I'm going to argue that Wish Upon is kind of fun. Like, it is not good, and I have a shit ton of notes about like what the hell am I watching, but I also was like pretty entertained. I didn't have to pause it. I was invested. I was like, I laughed quite a bit. I don't think I was supposed to laugh. I think all the humor is unintentional.
Yeah.
But it's got there's enough here that this is camp. And you can, in the right frame of mind, like with a bunch of friends and some, alcohol and a little bit, like you can have some fun with this movie. This movie at least has some things to it. Still
Sign
terrible.
Of a great movie. You need to drink to enjoy it.
Yeah, still terrible. Don't get me wrong. Like, this is not a good film at all. Mm-hmm. There's a reason I avoided it, and I was right to. But also, like, refreshing compared to Polaroid, which isn't a great review, but is at least something. So before we like really dive in, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're watching. Let me pull up my notes here. Okay, so Wish Upon is a 2017 American supernatural horror film directed by John Leonetti, written by Barbara Marshall, and starring Joey King. The film follows a teenage girl who's given a magic music box that grants 7 wishes, but kills someone every time she makes a wish. The film was theatrically released on July 14, 2017. It received negative reviews from critics. It does, Casey, have one of your favorite things going for it, which is a polarizing Rotten Tomatoes score. And this time, let me finish. There's a disparity between the audience and the critic score. This time it is the audience who liked it more than the critics. Mm-hmm. Although sadly, both of them hated it like a lot.
That's why I was like, kind of stretched on that one. And it's only like a 12-point difference. It's not even that much.
It has a 19% Rotten Tomatoes score from critics and a 31% audience score. So audiences liked it more than critics, but they still both collectively thought it was a piece of crap. Mm-hmm. The critics' consensus, I think, nails this one on the head. I'm going to read it. It's pretty great. Wish Upon is neither scary nor original, but its fundamental flaws as a horror movie may make it destination viewing for after midnight camp genre enthusiasts. So pretty much exactly what I thought, where I was like, it's terrible, but it's terrible in a kind of fun, charming way. Which I know you hate, and when I was watching this, I was like, oh, Casey hates the so bad it's good kind of stuff. Like, that's not his jam at all. So this is going to be a bloodbath. But you know me, I do appreciate a so bad it's good film, especially an unintentionally one. Like,
I was about to say there's a difference between like Sharknado and this.
Yeah, because I think sometimes, like, I like the I'm gonna make a bad film sometimes, but the problem is that those things usually suck, because it's like when you're trying too hard and you're trying to be clever and you're like, wink wink, nudge nudge, look at me, I'm self-aware, I'm really clever. It's really yawn inducing. Like, it's not great. And I think obviously the best films, like the Birdemics and the Rooms of the world, are accidental masterpieces where they actually tried to make a good film and failed on every possible front.
Did they try to make a good film with Birdemic? Did they really?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean,
did they? Nobody looks at that and goes, "I fucking nailed this."
I don't live inside the filmmaker's head, so I can't totally tell you. But
that's fair.
From
but
my
I mean,
research,
like, objectively, just looking at it.
Well, here's the thing. Let me give you a little tiny
clip
analogy.
Our birds on that.
No, I get
movie.
it.
Okay.
Birdemic is a masterpiece. Let's just say that. But listen, I told you. So I do kind of a lot of things in my job. My actual sort of main skill set is I'm a graphic designer. Mm-hmm. And as a designer, I feel like, it's very easy for me to look at design and see like that's good design and that's bad design. Like that's something that comes just like innately to me. Bad design sticks out like a sore thumb. But I will tell you, I see bad design everywhere. And I will like be looking at a billboard, for example, and I'll be like, who the fuck greenlit this? Like what? Like I can look at it. It takes me 2 seconds to be like, all right, if you fix these 4 or 5 things, this would be like at least at a minimum mid. It wouldn't be a dumpster fire. But as of right now, it's garbage. I like restaurant menus. It's like when I went to Avatar and saw that like goddamn papyrus font. I was like, please, like this could have been such a small change and it would have like not like made my eyes bleed.
What's wrong with papyrus? Come on.
I don't even want to. No, listen, that's a whole other episode. Don't get me started. But like I see it all the time and I'm like, why doesn't anyone notice how awful this is? Like come on, like you don't have to be a trained graphic designer to know that it's awful. But I think plenty of people are making things and thinking like, that looks good. That looks good enough to put on a giant billboard and not thinking twice about it. And somebody has to write that check for that giant billboard. So somebody else saw it and said, yeah, like this looks good. I'll see websites. I'm like, you're okay with this? Like you feel like this is a great visual representation. So my point is that taste is obviously subjective and a lot of people make a lot of shit that they think is good that is horrible garbage, and I'm sitting here thinking like, how do you not know this is garbage? But they don't know. So I'm arguing that it is possible to make something that another person would see and be like, surely you would have known that this is trash-tastic, right? But it's possible to not know. It's possible to put something out there and be really proud of it, and everybody else is like, well, I mean, we see it all the time with films. Like people try to make films that they actually think are good, and then critics and audiences like, savage it. And yeah, so to your point, I think it's possible that Birdemic wasn't a legitimate attempt at a film.
This turned into Birdemic episode. I thought you were going to circle back to Wish Upon.
Birdemic is so much more fun to talk about.
So in the end,
than Wish
Birdemic
Upon.
is a masterpiece. Thank you, everybody, for coming out to my TED Talk. Leave a review. I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Good night. Well, we have very little to say about these actual films, so we might as well just talk about other random stuff.
I took some hefty notes for this one.
I did take some notes. Let's get back to Wish Upon. Okay, so critic consensus: bad film, but maybe so bad it's good. I argue that so bad it's good has merit. You hate it. You talk about your feelings about Wish Upon.
So, right off the bat,
off the bat.
I don't get the hype. I don't even know if it's hype, but I see Joey King in everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
she's the
You're
queen,
not a Joey King fan.
Queen of mediocrity. I was literally looking at her Rotten Tomatoes like score list here on her filmography, and it ranges from 19 to 45. There's an odd outlier where there's like a 60 and an 80, but most of them are 19 or lower to about 45. She doesn't do good movies.
Yeah, here's the thing about Joey King. I think she can act. I think she makes terrible film choices.
Yes, that is my note. She is an all right actor. There's nothing wrong with her screen presence. She's very watchable, but she makes the worst choices since... I'm not going to make that joke, but yeah, makes terrible, terrible choices. And it kind of bothers me that she gets like... Again, I don't even know if it's hype, but she's in a lot of shit. Both figuratively and literally.
Yeah, she did The Kissing Booth, which was kind of like a big
The Kissing Booth,
cult hit.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, I believe the last one, they're like they have careers and they're doctors, but there's still a kissing booth. Like, I don't fucking understand. It's stupid.
Yeah, I think that's why young people dig her. I didn't see the act. I heard she was good in that and that was actually good.
The act?
Yeah, it was like a series.
show?
It was based on a true story. Yeah, it was a show. And it was based on a true story of yeah, I won't get into it, but you should look it up. I heard that that she was good in that and that was good. I didn't watch it, so I can't comment. But I have seen her in other stuff.
Oh, this
and
is
I always think
the
that
Munchausen thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
I always think that she's she does have a good screen presence, but yeah, she doesn't make great film choices. So,
No.
And this is up there in her
And like
pantheon of bad
sometimes-
choices.
sometimes when people make bad film choices, they do it for the money, or like it still makes $1 bajillion at the box office. But like she doesn't bring in money from like Independence Day and The Conjuring and Oz the Great and Powerful, although I don't know if she's really in that all that much. Her credit is Girl in the Wheelchair. But like The Conjuring and Independence Day Resurgence are the only two that have broken $100 million at the box office. So
Now, I don't think that this film is one of those like, oh my God, we've got star power behind us kind of films. I think it's just the like, it's, relative, it's inexpensive to make, and it's like, it's, a PG-13 horror film. Like, the kids love that, and it's a bunch of teens, like, getting killed and running around, and, like, I feel like this was just cashing in on the, like, that
the
this
genre.
is a formula that works,
Yeah.
and not really relying on like, oh my God, we've got Joey King. Although I don't remember the timing of this. I don't know about this in relation to Kissing Booth. Like, so I don't know how much of a hot property she was when this came
And
out.
I don't know if The Kissing Booth was really considered a hot property anyway.
I think it was a big deal on like Netflix. Like,
Yeah,
it was that
Kissing-
kind of.
Kissing Booth came out in 2018. Wish Upon us 2017.
And I don't honestly like. The Kissing Booth is not really my jam. Like, I'm not like,
No.
oh my God, the Kissing Booth. But I did like hear lots of buzz about it. And then
Yeah.
I remember I watched it. I did watch it. I'm gonna admit that, just to see like what what was only the first one. I have not seen any of the other 12.
Okay, you don't need to defend. It's fine. Don't stop justifying this. It's okay. I've seen all 3. It's fine.
Oh, that's embarrassing. That's
I
way
watched
more
the first
embarrassing.
one. I'm like, I'm invested now. It's like Twilight. I have to watch them all now.
You were invested. No, oh my God, I watched it. I was like, I don't understand the hype, but okay. Yeah. Because I mean, sometimes those like cheesy
Rom-com
romantic
style
comedy things are
teen-
fun.
Yeah.
But this
Which
one
is what my
did
hope
not
was,
do it
but-
for me. Yeah, yeah, me too. I was like, okay, let's give it a try. It's not really my like in my wheelhouse, but I can be entertained for a little bit. And I was like, not so much. But yeah. Now we're talking about we are literally talking about everything but these
Everything
films.
but, yeah.
But yeah, get back to it. So first of all, Joey King, you're not a fan, or
It's
this
not that
was
I'm not a fan. It's just I don't get it. Like I don't get her.
Yeah.
I don't get her choices. I don't get why people keep putting her in things if she keeps making these terrible choices. Like it's not like she. Again, like I don't know if this is my headcanon or if this is real, but I feel like people think she is a draw. Like it's always like starring Joey King, or Joey King is
she's
in
a
this
name.
thing.
I think people, I especially think that young people know her. I mean, I don't know. I can't really speak to how much young people are like, oh my God, Joey King. I mean, I don't think that people our age are really like, holy shit, Joey King's in that. But maybe the kids are kind of interested. I don't know.
Like, I feel like the kids, I don't know how young you're talking here, but like, I feel like anybody under the age of 20, if it's not a fucking Kardashian, nobody gives a fuck.
Well, that's not true. You think kids only care about Kardashians?
That's my understanding of the youth.
Okay. Actually, I think it's the old people that care about the Kardashians.
Really?
I don't
Like even
yeah, I don't
the
know.
one that has had more plastic surgery than like the ocean?
The one? Didn't they
All of them? But there's
No,
the one, the
you know what?
specific one, the one that has all like the makeup shit where her lips
Yeah,
are
I'm
3
not-
sizes too big for her face. That one?
Yeah. I can't co-sign on hating on women's looks and hating them for getting plastic surgery. So I will.
Well, I can when
Jump
they're like,
out
oh,
of
this is
that.
completely natural. This is like, I've always looked like this. Fast forward to a year and a half ago when you look like a gremlin. Like, come on.
Stop it. All right. There's
They
plenty
have
of reasons
built their
to hate.
empire on
I know.
their looks. It is no different than being like, that actor can't act when your only claim to fame is your looks. I can be like, that person is not good looking.
I mean, they're all multi-billionaires and all make more in like a minute than we are going to make in our lifetime. So they're doing something right that I'm certainly not doing.
Well, it's called piggybacking off a name. But that's beside the point.
I wish I could do it. Let's say that.
Well, don't say that around the wish box. Somebody will die.
All right, listen. I know we don't have a lot of time. I have a lot I could say about this film. There is actually quite a bit of WTF moments in here. Mm-hmm. There are a million like pieces of dialogue or choices that they make that I'm like, what? It's so fucking weird. It's just like, and it's like one of those films that I read a lot of reviews that kind of said this, like, it sort of feels in some way it feels intentional. Like it feels, somebody's like, it's not that sort of self-referential thing that they're doing. But it is like, look how clever we're being. But you do get a sense that they sort of like know what kind of film they want to make. They're leaning heavy into, they're like, you know what, fuck it. Like, let's just go for it. Let's just make a, like, who gives a shit about the plot? Let's just lean into all the sort of tropey badness and have fun with it, and not even try to make a quote unquote good film or like any sort of elevated horror or anything that is, really different in any way. Let's just lean into the bad and have fun with it. And I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's accidental or intentional, but it sort of almost feels like they're just like, like, let's just, you know what I mean? Like that's how we're going to be different, is we're just going to be so ridiculous. Because on its surface, this is very much like Polaroid, where it's like, it's just a retelling of the monkey's paw. It's like, okay, we've seen this a million times. Make a wish, there's consequences, and then there's like that morality play of like, what would you do in this situation, and if you could have everything you ever wanted but it comes with a price, that kind of thing, which is interesting, but it is like, it's very derivative, and this film in many ways feels very, like, it really leans into things like Final Destination, the way that it does its deaths, where it's like it drags them out and it makes you like, it does a lot of misdirection, and you're like, who's gonna die? Is it gonna be this person or this person? How are they gonna die? Is it gonna be like this or this? That's exactly kind of what the Final Destination does. It doesn't do it as well as Final Destination, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like playing with all of that. But so like, what I was gonna say, I guess, is like it should be very sort of bland and uninteresting, really, if you think about it. But it's I mean, again, it's not good, but it's pretty memorable. Like, it is kind of fun, but sort of in spite of itself. I don't know. I'm sure you didn't have fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, this is not even my second watch. This is probably my third or fourth watch of this movie, because every once in a while it pops up and I'm like, oh, I don't think I've ever seen this. And then about 15 minutes,
that's a
I'm
pretty
like,
good sign.
I've seen this. I've seen this. And
so you've accidentally watched it 4 times because you didn't remember the other 3?
Basically, yeah. There's a lot of things that make it, and again, like, I don't know if this is done on purpose, like you said, or if they just have no sense of anything, whoever made the movie. But like right at the beginning, when the mom offs herself, I don't know if it happens for 5 minutes in the movie, so it's not a spoiler. Even if it is, fuck it. It does have, the little girl walks up into the attic, and just as it happens, and then it does this really like jarring shift in tone, almost, where, like you said, it becomes a laugh more than a scare, right? Like,
yeah,
it goes from like this tense doo-doo, doo-doo, and there's like, wah! Like, it's sort of like fucking noise, and you're like, what the fuck was that? And then the girl screams, and then she wakes up from like, that was stupid.
I noted I wrote down the editing choices are really weird and bad in this film. Like, it's very, and it that happens multiple times where there's a really kind of fucked up transition, or some editing choice that you're like, what are we doing? And outside of that, like, it looks like they have a budget, like it's like not technically incompetent, but the editing is really, it's problematic.
The editing, yeah, that's A lot of it. Like, I would
Yeah.
say the cinematography and the directing is fine. But then, like, the sound design, like, in some of those scenes, it just goes overboard.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes you out of the movie. And it's just like, what? And that's kind of the whole theme of the movie. And another thing this fucking movie does that pisses me off is that, like, again, apparently every teenager who goes to an American high school is just a plain fucking dick. Every single one. Because that's how every single movie that takes place in a high school portrays high school kids. Is just, they're all fucking assholes. Every single one. Everybody's a bully to somebody else, and they're terrible people, and they get in fights all the time, and this is how, like, life is for an American teenager. That cannot be true. The Polaroid movie did it. This movie did it. The one we did last week, the house, who's in your house or whatever the fuck it was, they did it. Fucking Scream does it. Like, every single movie that takes place in a high school is just full of dickheads.
Well, let me say this. I mean, obviously it's exaggerated for film purposes, and obviously you need to have... It's hard because you're dealing with young people in these movies. And
young people played by 30-year-olds.
Well, yes, but my
Right.
point is that for quote-unquote grown-ups who look at young people, we tend to have very real problems. And so we look at the teen problems and we think like, oh, you don't even know what a problem is, sweetheart. Like, it is, their problems are so different compared to ours. But when you are young, problems are magnified exponentially. Like, anything that is bad feels like it is the end of the world bad. Like, it is the worst thing that can and will ever happen to you in the history of the universe. And it is not until you get older and look back that you're like, really, I miss having some of those problems compared to what I have now. And so I think you have to amplify the problems because the teens are your protagonists. Like, they're the people that you have to care about. So they have to have problems that feel big. And for a young person, one of the biggest problems that you can imagine is not getting the guy that you want, or not fitting in with the cool kids, and even if you're not being like extremely bullied, it feels like the end of the world if you're not accepted, or if like people don't like you and care about you. And so, yeah, I do think that they ramp that up a lot and make it maybe bigger than it maybe is. But I mean, you kind of have to, because there has to be that tension. There has to be that like, oh my God, my world is falling apart.
But do we? Like, I get
I think
it. Like,
so.
but it's not like their problems aren't being amplified. It's just people being straight assholes that are being amplified. Like, who hits people with a car on purpose?
I don't
think that happens. And that's not like an exaggerated problem. That is a cause and effect.
Well,
That's
I don't
not,
think
the boy doesn't like me, because there is that theme, that element in this movie where the boy doesn't like her or doesn't know she exists or whatever. But that's a very small portion until we get later on. But most of the problems are this girl walks up to her and she's like, "You're a fucking slut. I'm gonna fucking kill you in your sleep, you stupid whore." Like, shit, like, people don't do that. That doesn't happen for no reson.
I don't know. I think teens in general are dickheads. Like, if I'm gonna generalize, and I'll just, I'm including myself. I'm not making an other judgment. I'm saying like young people, before we've matured, do tend to be. I mean, not this level of extreme terror and menace, but in general, I think people in general are shitty, if I'm being completely honest. I don't know that many people outgrow it, but I think it's amplified when you're younger and you just like are like, I don't know. I mean, if you look on social and shit, there's a lot of like nastiness that seems, you're just like, really? Like,
Yeah,
why do you have this much like hate and animosity for no reason?
There's difference. It is, because there's a level of anonymity. I'm sure it's a lot easier if you were to call your fucking hydro company or whatever, and you'd find it easier to complain or offend in an email than over the phone or in person. You may say some things in an email that you might not say over the phone or face to face with somebody, and that goes true for social media. It's a lot easier to comment on a post being like, you're a stupid fucking whore or something like that when you don't have to face the consequences directly. You can, if they respond, you can ignore it. You don't even have to look at the response. So it's different online than in person.
I do think Mean Girls is the thing. Like, I do think there are, and maybe not at every school and maybe not for every person, but I do think there are plenty of people that have to deal with.
I don't think they pick a target and try to make their life. Yes, it happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. There's plenty of news stories about kids killing themselves because they're terribly bullied at school.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's isolated. It's very.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
I don't think it's at every high school in America. I mean,
there's such a anti-bullying campaign that that wouldn't exist if this wasn't a real problem that people had to deal with all the time.
Wouldn't it though? I mean, what about the war on drugs back in the 80s or whatever it fucking was, where it's like drugs weren't really that big of a problem, but there was just like a political stance.
Well,
people blow things out of proportion to elevate themselves. Whoever started the anti-bullying campaign is now a little bit more famous than they were, and there's always a selfish element behind a lot.
Really, who is that? Who is the person who started the anti? Well, then they're not very famous, are they?
But I mean, I also don't know who the fucking leader of Black Lives Matter is, or LGBTQ communities, and just because I don't know it doesn't mean they aren't in their circles known a little bit more, right? But when you were in high school, did you ever experience anything like this? And I know we're getting way off topic, but I need to know. I've asked this question before, I'm pretty sure, and I don't remember what you said, obviously, because I'm going to ask you again.
Well, I mean, I was super cool, so it's
hard, not even directly. Did you witness anything to this extent?
I mean,
did you ever witness fist fights in the lunchroom over somebody going up, "You're smegma"? Which was a fucking ridiculous scene to begin with, but
definitely fights. Now whether it was over something that's stupid or not, I don't know. There were definitely fights. There were definitely people being shitty. There were definitely people that got picked on. Now, everything is amplified in these films, so it wasn't I didn't see anything where it's absolute terror happening. But I mean, I saw shitty behavior for sure.
Right, but did you see anybody chase people down with a baseball bat or something? I'm going to kill that kid because he's good at math. That's the extent here. It's the high school jock is I'm going to kill that guy because he got better than me in a math test. Fuck! That doesn't happen. And it takes me completely out of the fucking movie. Every time. Stranger Things even doesn't. I love Stranger Things. I'm that doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't.
I don't know. I don't know if I know if it does or doesn't exist.
Well, okay. All I can say is in high school, this is a long time ago now, but when I was in high school, if there were ever a target to be picked on, it was me. I was 5'6", 93 pounds, white kid in the middle of a ghetto high school. I was one of 8 white people in the class, and I was never picked on. I wasn't particularly good at anything. I didn't stand out. I was nerdy, but stupid, terrible student, but had the nerdy video game persona going on.
Wow.
I dressed terribly.
You had a lot going for you.
I had fucking nothing in high school, yet never once picked on. And like I said, if there was a target, it would have been me. I had 2 friends, it never happened.
But you also were in Canada. I'm telling you, it's a different world in Canada.
The first day of my high school career, somebody got stabbed in the neck, and that was gang related, though. So I mean, I don't really count that as bullying. But I look at the antagonist or the protagonist of all these high school movies, and I would argue, again, like you said, it's exaggerated, but to an exaggerated extent, I would have been these protagonists. Very unpopular, not super well known, just kind of there. I would have been one of these, even if it was one of the 3 friends who gets bullied, and not even the main friend. I would have been one of those. Never fucking happened. Not once. I think the worst thing that happened was my friend pantsed me in the hallway. And it wasn't even a bully, it was a friend.
I don't know that you can extrapolate your experience to, the entire Like,
no, obviously, like I'm saying, it obviously happens. Bullying happens, but I don't feel like it's to this extent, and it's just one of those things. If I can't relate to it, then surely there's 100,000 other people who can't relate to it either, and you're alienating your audience.
all right, Casey. So you're getting really worked up over.
I am, because
what I
it
think
pisses
is
me off,
probably
because I want to see
the
a high
least
school
thing
movie
about
or
this
show.
film.
I know, but I just want to see a movie based in high school that doesn't have these exaggerated psychopathic stereotypes of bullies.
What about Euphoria? Is that a better option for you?
No, because like they're all fucking 45 years old playing
They're not
these
45.
12-year-old students. The one like
Hey, you
Latina
get mad at
chick-
me when I exaggerate.
Okay. We're gonna look up Euphoria for a second here, because the
No,
one.
can
like,
we please
Latina
get back to
chick-
Wish Upon? Can we?
Yes.
Can we get back to
Continue.
Wish Upon?
Euphoria.
Stop typing. Stop ticky typing. Come on,
Nope.
Casey.
Go on.
We
Continue.
have so little time.
I
I'm
know.
not going to continue while you're typing and looking
I'm
up
not
Euphoria.
typing.
It doesn't matter.
I'm not typing. She's 30, by the way.
Okay,
Playing
that's not
a 16-year-old
45,
high
by
school
the way.
student. Close
If I
fucking
was
enough.
30, I would not appreciate when somebody's like, "Oh, you're 45." I'd be like, "No, I'm 30. I have a little ways to go."
It's close enough. Anyway,
It's not close enough, you asshole. Listen,
it's close
let's
enough.
talk about
To
Wish
be
Upon.
playing
I
a
have other things to
14-year-old,
talk
but
about.
Yes. It's
Oh
terrible.
my
Continue.
God. You're never allowed to talk about this again. Like, anytime I watch a teen
Continue.
movie,
Fine.
you're never
Fine.
allowed
Then we're
to
never
bring
doing
this
a
up.
high school movie ever again.
Fine. Fine with me. All right, listen. I want to talk about a couple things.
Okay.
I want to talk about Claire, who is Joey King, who is your main protagonist, your quote-unquote hero.
Mm-hmm.
She is problematic. Like, I do not root for her. She is not sympathetic. She is not a good character. She is actually, honestly, by the end of this, I was like, this girl
Good.
needs to get her comeuppance. Like, she's really kind of pissing me off at this point.
Mm-hmm.
She's really not a great protagonist. Now, she has two friends, and really they're her only two friends in the world, because she's an outcast, at least for a while. Her two friends, so one of them, her ginger friend, from Stranger Things, and you're obsessed with Stranger Things. So I was like, well, that's nice. You get a little Stranger Things tie-in.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have a big role. She doesn't have a lot to do here. She's really sort of
No.
just like the nice girl who's like the voice of reason. She's a little
She's
bland.
also in
but
Riverdale, by the way.
yeah, I did not watch Riverdale. I mean, I'm obviously aware of Riverdale, but
She always has like an old person name too. In this, she's June, which is my grandmother's name. She, in Stranger Things, is called Barb, and in Riverdale, she's Ethel.
yeah, which is unfortunate because they're like, oh, she's not the hot girl, so let's give her like a grandma name.
And she actually just came out in a news article or an interview with somebody saying like it's hard for plus size girls to be lead actors in Hollywood, which is fair.
Yeah, yeah, it's very fair.
So she's topical at the moment. Shannon Purser.
Yeah, and she's great. I mean, this is
a
not
good
a
character actor,
well-crafted
for sure,
role
yeah.
for her.
No.
But I will say I found Claire's friends more interesting than I found her,
Mm-hmm.
even though we didn't get very much of them. Her other friend, her like kind of sassy friend,
Meredith, also an old person name, but sure.
Meredith. But did you recognize Meredith?
Mm-hmm.
From
the house there's people living in, or whatever the fuck it was called.
Yes, we
Yeah.
just talked about her movie last week, so I was like, well, that's kind of interesting because I hadn't when I saw There's Someone Inside Your House, which is the correct title, by the way.
Right.
When
'Cause people
when
care.
I saw that, I had never seen her before. Like I was like, oh, she's new, and then I saw this, I was like, oh shit, like I didn't realize she was in this. I actually really she's really like kind of shitty, but I really kind of liked her character. She's fun anyway. Like she has the best lines.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we talked about Polaroid. Like at least she's got some personality. She's got some comic relief. She's defined. You know who she is. You know who her other friend is. You know who Claire is.
Mm-hmm.
These are very distinct characters. In Polaroid, there's none of that. They're all just like generic white person. Like there's nothing. But these people are interesting, at least, even if they're not well written, and they don't always make good decisions, all that kind of stuff. They're at least interesting and compelling, and I had fun. And some of the lines of dialogue in this film are so hilariously bad, like laugh out loud. I was like, oh shit,
Yeah. Like
what the hell is happening?
like the smegma scene, I assume you're talking about. Like
Yeah,
that entire sequence made zero sense. It's
Zero
established
sense.
early on that Joey King's character is like shy-ish, supposed to be, I guess, weary if not afraid of this clique of bullies, and then out of nowhere she's like, "You're smegma." Like, would you? In what universe would anybody do that to their bully? Never.
I'm gonna tell you something that I think is gonna make you appreciate me a little bit.
You called somebody
Maybe.
smegma
No,
at your
no.
work, and they didn't know what it meant. And you're like,
Yeah,
"Here's
and
dick
then we got
cheese."
into a fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I was toying with, I was like, this would be a fun time to bring back the dramatic reading, and
Oh,
this
fuck
would be a
no.
pretty fun scene to do. But I thought better of it. I was like, no, I'm not going to do it to him. But like, I did, it did cross my mind. But I pushed it out of my mind. But I was like, this is kind of such a ridiculously written scene that it would be fun to reenact.
Yeah, it was so out of. I feel like that was the first scene in the movie they filmed, and then from there they're like, I think we're gonna change the feel of Joey King's character, and so it just felt like it felt like it's from a different movie. Like, it was so weird.
Yeah, there's not a lot of clarity around character motivations in this film.
No, and that's
And-
part of the issue I have with the obnoxious bullies. I was like, why? Like, by all standards, Joey King's character isn't, other than her dad's a dumpster diver. Like, she seems like a normal girl. Usually people who are picked on have some sort of quirk that makes them stand out, which is a bad thing in high school, apparently. So it's just yeah.
They didn't really reference it, but I have witnessed in high schools, well, I mean, I didn't go to multiple high schools, but it is sort of a thing that, like, there is a bit of a class system for
Sure.
sure. So
Yeah.
if there is going to be any sort of bullying, even if low level, it's probably going to happen because somebody's poor and they don't, have designer clothes, and they go to thrift stores and that kind of stuff. And she's definitely very poor, and or they
Very
sort of
poor,
imply
and they
that-
live in this like wonderful house. I would
Well, it's
consider that a
dilapidated,
wonderful
though.
house. It doesn't
Well,
look
because
that dilapidated though. Like, her room is really well put together. There's junk because her dad's a dumpster diver, but I mean, it's still a fucking house. You know how much houses go
Yeah.
for nowadays? Like,
I know. Well, I think it depends on where are they? Do we know? Is it like? Do they even say?
I don't know.
Do they ever set the? I don't know if they said. They might have, and I missed
They
it.
might have, yeah. I mean, you have to assume it's somewhere that has seasons because they're all kind of like in fall, spring clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So America, Northwest Pacific, or Atlantic. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. My point was that, like, you can get a much nicer house in some parts of the country for much less than you can in others. So it's
It
hard
also, I guess it was like the same house that she grew up in, so maybe it was already
Yeah.
paid off or whatever.
Yeah, and they sort of imply, because later she makes her, I mean, this is a spoiler alert, but this isn't really a film to spoil anyway, but
Yeah, who fucking cares?
she makes a wish to bring her mom back and
Mhm.
say, like, I wish my mom had never killed herself, because apparently that's when the whole family fell apart, and that's when her dad, like, they don't
Started
really say,
Hoarding
like, I don't even know if
everything.
he's dumpster diving that's his profession, or it's like a hobby or something he does on the side. That's not really clear either what he does, but you sort of get the vibe that he was doing really well when her mom was alive. They were all doing really well. They were thriving. They would have continued to thrive if she stayed alive, but when she died, everything sort of went to shit. Is the implication here. So I'm thinking, they had this nice house, they were doing good. He was probably doing something, they were making good money, whatever. I don't know. All this stuff is sort of just not very well defined, but you have to kind of read between the lines. But then it seems like they kind of lost it all after that.
Yeah, I mean, but it's so irrelevant to the plot, really.
Yeah.
Like most things in this movie. The whole concept of that box. Also, I want to just another weird thing is how they're always like, oh, you take Chinese in high school. Oh, you're taking Chinese. Oh, this box of Chinese isn't a fucking language.
I thought that was that. I wrote that down too. It's funny because this movie is full of plot holes, and if we could probably spend 2 hours just talking about and then this doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense. But that one really stood out to me when I first, even before the box, when they cut to a bunch, and it's a bunch of kids. It's like everybody that's kind of in the movie is in this Mandarin class. I was like, the fuck, high school?
What high school
offers this as an elective, and who takes it? That's like the hardest language on the planet.
Yeah, I was
going to
ask you the same fucking thing of is that a thing that happens in American high schools? I don't know.
I think the bullying thing is more
I think that's more likely
probable than the
fucking Mandarin or Chinese class. Yeah.
They all happen to be taking Chinese, and then she happens to get a Chinese box, and then she goes to her Chinese professor and says, hey, can you read us? He's like, no, I can't, even though he teaches it in school. And then she has to go to some random girl who's just interested in classic, what is it?
Ancient Chinese.
What they called it. Ancient Chinese, yeah. And she can decipher it. It's just
this 16-year-old
bananas.
Girl. Yeah.
Yeah, it is really nutso bananas on so many levels. This plot is ridiculous. But I kind of, if I'm being honest, I kind of love it for it. I at least appreciate that this movie is so fucked up and so weird and so nonsensical that it makes me kind of smile. A Polaroid makes perfect sense, quote unquote sense, in the world of supernatural weirdness, but it's so boring. This isn't boring. This is really what? Because every scene you're like, I'm sorry, what? What the fuck? What now? What are they doing now? Who's this? What's happening? What did they just say? There's so much of that I don't know. It felt like it moved really fast, and I was kind of smiling the whole time.
That's interesting because I had the complete opposite reaction to
really.
The thing.
You
I
hate
was I was just sitting there is it over yet? Oh my god, it's been 15 minutes. This is another one of those movies. It has an average 90-minute runtime. And it felt like fucking ages went by, and it wasn't even halfway done.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's fair. And this is not a movie. I am not going to leave this podcast going, oh my god, you guys, you've got to see Wish Upon. I'm not going to do it. It's bad, but I do think there's something here for the right audience if you go into it with the right sort of frame of mind. If you're I want to just have some fun and make fun of this stupid thing, then it's kind of fun.
Not even that. I think it's a horror movie for people who don't watch horror movies, if that makes sense. I can imagine showing this to a friend of mine who I went to go see Doctor Strange with, and at some point in the movie he turned to me and he's like, why is this a horror movie? This movie would be for him because he wouldn't overthink it. He would take the quote-unquote horror at its very primal and probably think it was an entertaining movie.
Yeah, it's very PG-13. The kills are very underwhelming. There is not much in the way of blood or anything like that. So it is going to piss off a lot of horror fans because it's so it's not scary at all. There's at no point are you afraid. At no point are you
there's no tension,
that was a cool kill. The most interesting part of the kills is the how's it gonna happen part, and they milk that way too much actually. Once the kill actually happens, it's okay, it's not that fun to watch. So
it's not fun to watch because the PG-13 the PG-13 rating holds back what could be decent kills.
Yeah.
Right? When the elevator kill, I'm her body would be obliterated.
Yeah, that could have
falling
been
from that
great, but
height.
they were
not
like,
having like a piece of glass in her cheek.
yeah, you
Like,
definitely. And it's like I'm pretty scared of elevators. Like, not to the point where I won't get in them. I'm not like,
Right.
it's
But I mean,
not
the whole
paralyzing
concept
fear,
is
but
like, yeah.
every time I'm in an elevator, I'm like, oh my God, what a way to die that would be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or even just getting stuck in one is terrifying. So yeah, and especially like glass elevators. Glass elevators are really fucking scary.
Right. Because you can't just pee freely in the corner. People can see you.
Right. That's why they're scary, is because you can't pee in the corner, which is my favorite thing to do when I get an elevator. And I'm always like, God damn it, I can't pee in this one.
Yeah.
And that's super easy for girls to do, you know, just to drop trow and pee in a
whip
corner.
It out, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it could have been really intense and fucked up, and it was very tame and uneventful. And the fact that her big thing is that she's like obsessed with this like horror version of Pokemon Go is hilarious as well. Like, that's her whole character identity.
Yeah.
And that's how she dies, is trying to like
go
hunt
kill
one of these like ghost Pokemon. It's pretty. Again, it's so fucking stupid that it's kind of hilarious, and I don't know. This film is garbage. Like, objectively, really, really terrible. But there's a lot of shit that you can make fun of, and that's kind of entertaining to me, at least. To some people, you know, to the right audience.
Yeah, like I said, it falls into the same. I would say the same camp, the same ballpark, same league, whatever you want to call it, as Polaroid, where it's like passable to a degree. Like, there's nothing in it that'd be like, okay, I'm gonna turn this off because it's offensively bad. But at the same time, it's definitely not an enjoyable experience. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's very paint by numbers. And I know, like, cursed objects, you can only do certain things with cursed objects in movies before, you know, you get to like the outlandish and it becomes just silly again. But it's the same movie as Polaroid, just with slightly better characters.
It's better than Polaroid, which, I mean, again, not saying much, but Polaroid is really unredeemable. I'm going to say two things about this film, and then we can like end our torture and our suffering. First thing I'm going to say is so it takes her a while. She makes a bunch of wishes before she really realizes what this music box is doing. The second she finds out that when you make a wish, someone dies. There's a blood sacrifice. 2 seconds after that, she makes another wish.
Makes a wish.
And the wish is not for something meaningful. The wish is so she can be popular. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I was like, fuck this bitch. Like, that's what I'm saying. This girl is not very sympathetic.
No.
Which brings me to my second point. That ending.
Yeah.
This film does a lot of things wrong.
Yeah.
This film does a lot of things wrong. But that ending is pretty great. And I don't mean great in like, fuck yeah, they really wrote this one well. I just mean like it's just kind of perfect for this kind of film. It's sort of, because, spoiler alert, she thinks that she's figured out, in her last wish, she thinks she's figured out how to beat the system, how to trick this box. And so she wishes that, like, she never had found the box. So the film does what you think it does, is a cheat where it resets everything. And everything is back to before she made her first wish. And everything's perfect and happy, 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 and she's beat the box.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, out of nowhere, right when she's like, everything's great, she's walking back into class, and she gets hit by a car and killed. And the car hit, first of all, it does sort of, like, come out of nowhere, and it is so dramatic. She flies, like, 50 feet in the air, flies across the sky, and lands on another car, and it's insane. It's ridiculous. It's insane.
Yeah, it's stupid.
But it's also just like kind of beautiful, because you're like, yeah, bitch, like, good. And it's just sort of, is satisfying in a terrible way. I don't know how to articulate that because, like I said, it's not good by any means.
Mhm.
But it did make me laugh. I was like, you know what?
Yeah, it was a laugh.
I'm kind of proud of this film because it seems like a film that would end on some like cliche, stupid note. And the
Which
fact
it does.
that it did that.
If you go through the mid-scene credits, it
yes.
does.
Well, I was going to say, I didn't know if you watched them or not. That pissed me off because I thought that the proper ending was so good. And then they add this little tag on the end. And I'm like, God damn it, you just unwound everything you did and then gave me a generic, stupid ending that pissed me off. But I tried to just pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like they tried to set up for a sequel knowing they'll never get a sequel. Because
I think they thought they might.
No, there's no, because what do you, it'd be the exact same movie, just with a different guy. There's nothing that would change about it.
But isn't that literally how, I mean, think about The Ring. Like, why do we need sequels to that? Isn't that literally how all these films work, where we get sequels to things we don't need? And it's just somebody else going through the same experiences.
Yeah, but aren't they at least different characters? This would imply the same characters are in it.
Yeah. Maybe there'd be like one crossover, like he would be a character, but then there'd be new characters. I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that they thought that this was going to be a hot property and that they were going to get a franchise out of it.
I don't know. I mean,
and who knows? It would not surprise me if tomorrow I see, oh, they're making a Wish Upon 2. It's not anything anybody needs or wants or is asking for.
It's been a little too long, I think. It's been like 6 years since the movie came out. So,
but the way things go, it honestly wouldn't surprise me. I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me a little bit? But I'd also be like, yeah, that's par for the course.
Yeah, I could see it being like a straight to a dollar store DVD bin. Not even streaming service. Yeah. Like nothing would pick it up except like independent guy who distributes.
I don't know. Netflix would pick this up. Come on.
Oh, Netflix isn't that bad when it comes to picking up movies.
Pretty bad.
No,
all right.
What's
your 5-word review for this masterpiece?
Sure, it's better than Polaroid.
That's actually pretty good. That's actually really good. Mine is vanilla again, and I apologize. I said terrible, but somehow still fun, which I know you disagree with, but yours was better. I mean, you did a good job today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that was today. We rarely.
I'm never gonna leave you to end the podcast ever again.
Well,
sure, so that's it. Today. Bye.
I'm gonna end it whenever I want. You're not gonna stop me. We rarely have two films that. Well, first of all, we rarely agree, and I think we agree on both of these for the most part. We have a little bit of different opinion on Wish Upon, but for the most part, both bad movies. Second, it's rare that I think we have two stinkers like this, and it's rare that I hate not one but two films. So this was kind of a special episode if you think about it.
Kind of, yeah.
It reminds me of you're gonna be like, this doesn't make sense at all, but like Breakfast Club, where he's like, yeah, it's kind of social, demented and sad, but social. That's what this is. It's, kind of special, but demented and sad.
Sure.
That was a really good reference, and I don't like you trying to make me think that it wasn't. Don't try to gaslight me and think that I'm not as clever as I am.
Wonderful reference.
All right, you end it. Let's see how you do. See how much better you do.
Fine. Goodbye.
No, yeah, that was great.
Quick, concise, and to the point. Just like how none of our episodes are.
That's true. I thought this was going to be 15 minutes, and it was, 2 hours?
Not quite 2 hours, but an hour and 20. Yeah. No segue. Just if you like what you heard today, make sure you leave that 5-star rating on Spotify. You can do it on mobile still. I don't think it's still available on the desktop app yet, but they'll get to it sometime. You can still do iTunes, Apple Podcasts. Any 5-star ratings will be read out on the show as well. And you can still leave a voice thing on Anchor. I keep forgetting about that. But if you want to do that, you can do that. Yeah.
We need to promote that more because it was
nifty.
fun when we were getting voice messages, and I think people just don't think about it or know about it. But
yeah, and maybe they even took that option out, and I didn't even realize.
What?
Because Anchor is run by Spotify, and now Spotify has its rating system, so maybe they took it out. I haven't checked.
Oh, we need to check.
We get fairly consistent, or we used to get like at least once a month a voice memo sort of thing.
Well, we used to really promote it. That's why we
That's
haven't talked
true.
about it in a really long time, either on social or really. I mean, on this podcast, I think we maybe mentioned it in very quick
In passing, yeah.
Let's find out if it's still a thing, and then let's promote it more because I think it's fun, and I love hearing what you guys think, and you know whether what you want us to talk about, how you feel about what we did talk about, if you agree with us, disagree with us, like that's super fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to spoil it, but we've got a really fun. I'm very, very excited about our episode in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even going to tease what we're talking about, but I'm just going to say that it is so. It's probably going to be the happiest that I've ever been on this podcast. It's so my jam, and I can't wait. So we're going to have to do something really excited about it.
It'll be my mission to make you cry. The happier you get, the meaner I have to be.
You do not even have to try, honey. That is such a natural skill set for you that you just have to show up and be Casey, and I'm sure I'll be miserable. Don't worry.
That's good. Good.
Yeah. No, I mean, so this episode happened.
Another A+ ending. So this was a thing. I'm sorry. Goodbye.
Brilliant. Bye, guys.